Hey there, welcome to Monday Night Poetry. So today I want to talk about another one of the women of the English Romantic era of poetry. We're going to talk about Mary Darby Robinson. She was born in England in 1758, and she was a pretty famous character of her time. She was mostly famous for her work as an actress, but she was also a novelist. She wrote, throughout her lifetime, she published 8 novels, and the first one, which was called Vincenza, or The Dangers of Credulity, sold out its first printing. And whether that was because she was already a well-known actress or because people were really interested in her writing at that point, it doesn't matter. Either way, she was a woman who was published and successful as a writer and an actress. In terms of poetry, she was a prolific poet. She published 14 volumes throughout her lifetime, and also posthumously a couple were published. Her work focused mostly on the marginalized. She liked to write a lot about society's lesser cared for people. She was also a feminist. She would talk about women's rights in her work as well. But then she also had a more cerebral side to her that was interested in dreams and imagination and like semi-conscious thought. She associated with her own little crew of poets. Some of those folks you might be familiar with, Mary Wollstonecraft, Coleridge, John Walcott, to name a couple. Towards the end of her life, things became a little less glamorous. She became ill and then had a lot of debt also, so she didn't end her days in a very happy place. But in the last year of her life, she was also still going strong as a writer, and she was even positioned as the poetry editor for the Morning Post. Unfortunately, she would die later that year, and that year being 1800. So she had died in December of 1800. But yeah, overall a very empowered, interesting woman. I think for sure her place as a famous person certainly helped with her ability to get published and be kind of in the public eye, and I think it maybe even like gave her her work a little bit more weight to it, where people would actually maybe take it a little bit more into account because it was a person of notoriety who was talking about these things. Anyway, moving along, we're going to get right into her work. I will be reading again from the Norton Anthology. So we're going to start off with a poem called January 1795. So this is January 1795 by Mary Robinson. Pavement slippery, people sneezing, lords in ermine, beggars freezing, titled gluttons, dainties carving, genius in a garret starving, lofty mansions warm and spacious, courtiers cringing and voracious, misers scarce, the wretched heeding, gallant soldiers fighting, bleeding, wives who laugh at passive spouses, theaters and meeting houses, balls where simpering misses languish, hospitals and groans of anguish, arts and sciences bewailing, commerce drooping, credit failing, placement mocking subjects loyal, separations, weddings royal, authors who can't earn a dinner, many a subtle rogue a winner, fugitives for shelter seeking, misers hoarding, tradesmen breaking. Taste and talents quite deserted, all the laws of truth perverted, arrogance or merit soaring, merit silently deploring, ladies gambling night and morning, fools the works of genius scorning, ancient dames for girls mistaken, youthful damsels quite forsaken, some in luxury delighting, more in talking than in fighting, lovers old and beaux decrepit, lordlings empty and insipid, poets, painters, and musicians, lawyers, doctors, politicians, pamphlets, newspapers, and odes, seeking fame by different roads, gallant souls with empty purses, generals only fit for nurses, schoolboys smit with martial spirit, taking place of veteran merit, honest men who can't get places, knaves who shew on blushing faces, ruin hastened, peace retarded, candor spurned, and art rewarded. So that was January 1795 by Mary Robinson. I appreciate her way of speaking. I feel like compared to the last poet, I think that she definitely, her language tends to lean more towards the actual like spoken, like vernacular, rather than something that is, you know, leaning into iambic pentameter or leaning into like more of the like higher society jargons. So I feel like I appreciate her, at least in that poem, I appreciate her use of language there. So the last poem I want to read by Mary Robinson is called The Haunted Beach. Upon a lonely desert beach, where the white foam was scattered, a little shed upreared its head. Though lofty barks were shattered, the seaweeds gathering near the door, a somber path displayed, and all around the deafening roar re-echoed on the chalky shore by the green billows made. Above a jutting cliff was seen where seabirds hovered craving, and all around the crags were bound with weeds forever waving. And here and there in a cavern wide, its shadowy jaws displayed, and near the sands at ebb of tide a shivered mast was seen to ride, where the green billows strayed. And often while the moaning wind stole o'er the summer ocean, the moonlight scene was all serene, the waters scarce in motion. Then, while the smoothly slanting sand, the tall cliff wrapped in shade, the fishermen beheld a band of specters gliding hand in hand where the green billows played. And pale their faces were as snow, and sullenly they wandered, and to the skies with hollow eyes they looked as though they pondered, and sometimes from their hammock shroud they dismal howlings made, and while the blast blew strong and loud, the clear moon marked the ghastly crowd where the green billows played. And then above the haunted hut, the curlews screaming hovered, and the low door with furious roar the frothy breakers covered. For in the fisherman's lone shed a murdered man was laid, with 10 wide gashes in his head, and deep was made his sandy bed, where the green billows played. A shipwrecked mariner was he, doomed from his home to sever, who swore to be, through wind and sea, firm and undaunted ever. And when the wave resistless rolled, about his arm he made a packet rich of Spanish gold, and like a British sailor bold, plunged where the billows played. The spectre band, his messmates brave, sunk in the yawning ocean, while to the mast he lashed him fast, and braved the storm's commotion. The winter moon upon the sand a silvery carpet made, and marked the sailor reach the land, and marked his murderer washed his hands where the green billows played. And since that hour the fisherman has toiled and toiled in vain, for all the night the moony light gleams in the spectred main. And when the skies are veiled in gloom, the murderer's liquid way bounds o'er the deeply yawning tomb, and flashing fires the sands illume where the green billows play. Full 30 years his task had been, day after day more weary. For heaven designed his guilty mind should dwell in prospects dreary. Bound by a strong and mystic chain, he has not power to stray, but destined misery to sustain, he wastes in solitude and pain a loathsome life away. So that is The Haunted Beach by Mary Robinson. And that will conclude our little dive into her work. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will try and put out some smaller videos that are like holiday related, since like right now is holiday time. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little bit, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.